Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, along with Chris King. Chris, some fun stuff last night. We got to see some winners. Memphis did us proud. They came through like they knew what they were doing. So
John Morant. San Antonio couldn't stop him. Did you see that play at the end of the half where they threw it in there and he just basically volleyball set it up into the basket?
Right. Yeah.
Because he couldn't do a catch and shoot with 0.4 of a second left.
Nope.
So it was basically just flip it up there.
When that went in, you're having a good night.
Yeah, but like we said, San Antonio was playing their third game in 4 nights. We talked about how they're allergic to defense, and they were allergic to defense again yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to haunt Popovich's team probably the rest of the season, because you think there's 20-some games left in the year, and they're still sitting. What are they, 11th, 12th in the West? They're a game and a half behind New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look at games like that and go and understand why they didn't make the playoffs, and they'll have no one to blame but themselves.
That's the way it works. You screw it up, then things happen, right?
Speaking of screwing it up, let's talk about Bruce Boudreau. You're a good buddy there.
And
you took my call when I told him not to start Yaroslav Halak. Of course, if I hadn't realized they were going to start Halak before we did the show, I wouldn't have picked Vancouver over New Jersey.
Right.
But as it turned out, they made that decision after the show was already airing, and after we had all the work done. So, thanks, Bruce.
You can only lead them so far. Let's do a quick MGM pop here. We got our buddies at MGM. Now, here's what's going on with MGM. It's really cool. BetMGM will give all new customers a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $1,000. It's, of course, only new players are eligible for this bonus, and you must claim it within 7 days of signing up. Now, here's what happens next. Once you create an account and make your first deposit, place any real money on the bet between $10 and $1,000, and they'll match it for you. Okay, so it's a pretty good deal. Now, remember, as we always say, you have to be 21 years of age to play, and always wager responsibly. So that's one of our BetMGM deals. We're going to have another one a little bit later. By all means, what we want you to do is check it out in our show box below, because that's where all the goodies are. Okay, so check that out. Also, while you're here, smash that like button and subscribe button and hit that bell so that you know every time that we are going to do something and be on. So, by all means, check that out. All right, Chris, let's go to the hardwood. Specifically, we're going to go see Oakland and IUPUI, where they're just minus $8 billion in that game. Although, in fairness, you had some lines that were just off the charts.
That's why I put $8 billion, because the money lines are horrible. This is actually a first-round Horizon League tournament game, so this could be, and let's say, should be the end of the road for the Jaguars this season. Obviously, it's been a terrible year for them. They're 3-25. They're 1-16 in the conference. They're 1-12 on the road. They're facing a Golden Grizzlies team that's coming off a win over Cleveland State in the regular season finale. The Golden Grizzlies 19-11, 12-7 on the horizon. They were 9-3 at home. Probably what's even more galling for IUPUI is they're down to 5 guys. Bakari Lestrap, who averages better than 9 points a game, I think is their second leading scorer, left the regular season finale against Green Bay after playing 3 minutes. So the other 4 guys played all 40 minutes, and the 5th guy played 37 minutes in relief.
Well, wait a minute. They've got 5 guys to play.
Yep.
Okay.
They had 6, and then Lestrap got hurt.
Right.
He's not supposed to play tonight, so they're down to 5.
I thought that you had to have 8 players in the NCAA to actually participate in a game. If you only have 5...
The rule is 8 in the NBA.
No, I know it's an NBA as well, but... all right, so you can play with 4 guys?
Well, no, they've got 5 guys. They had five. They had 6 guys, and then Lestrap got hurt. So
All right,
now
fine.
they have 5.
If you got 5 players, one of them gets, heaven forbid, hurt or fouls out, what happens? You're playing 5-on-4?
I guess they'd have to.
Okay.
I mean, at that point, the water boy can suit up.
Anything's possible. But that's a shame. Okay.
But I mean, IUPUI, they lost 67-41 to Green Bay. Everybody knows Green Bay, not a good basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost by 26 to a bad Green Bay team on their own floor. Now you got to face an Oakland team that's, above average. I'm not going to say they're great. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're above average. They're 81st in scoring offense. They average almost 75 points a game. They shoot 53% from inside the arc. They're decent shooting from the outside. And they knock down free throws, which is something that we talk about, especially in these mid-majors, is important. They're 3rd in the country at 79.7%. Meanwhile, you got an IUPUI team that is dead last in scoring at 52.3. They're dead last in field goal percentage. They're 2nd worst in 2-point shooting. They're in the bottom 10 in threes per game. They're 353rd in 3-point shooting. They're 328th in free throw shooting. And they got 5 guys. And like Warren just said, are the 5 guys serving burgers or playing basketball? I like 5 guys when you go, because you get a lot of fries when you go there. And their burgers aren't bad. It's still weird they cut their hot dogs in half, but, what are you going to do? But I'd probably rather go to 5 guys than watch the 5 guys that IUPUI has left play basketball tonight. You have to figure in the first meeting that these teams had this season, back in, I believe, let me double check the date so I don't give it to you. Yeah, back on December 4th, when they played at IUPUI, the Jaguars lost by 33 points. And at that point, they had 10 guys. Now
So
they've
you're
got
saying
5.
now they're going to lose by 66 because they got 5 instead of 10?
I think this is going to be a bloodbath. I mean, like we said, the money lines, depending on where you look, are horrific to just really bad. Just take a quick look here. We were talking in the pre-show. BetMGM is the best odds that or win at win. It's at minus 5,000. At Caesars and FanDuel is minus 10,000. At Bet365, Oakland is going off at minus 20,000. PointsBet, DraftKings, and Unibet, and BetRivers won't even put a money line on this game because of the bloodbath that they're expecting it to be. And let's just face it, it's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, this is going to be what they thought that Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa and Rocky 1 was going to be. Where you come in and he's like, this guy doesn't think it's a show. This guy thinks it's a fight. Finish this bum and let's go home. Yeah. And if you're IUPUI, you just probably wish that you stayed home because this is not a game that you want to finish your season on.
Yeah.
After losing by 26 to Green Bay, you're not going to beat Oakland.
The original Caesars book back in the day probably gave the Christians a better chance against the Lions at the Coliseum in those days. Yeah,
and John, of course, being the ever-loving optimist, says, it sounds like an upset in the making.
John, you know what? If they were to win, let's just say this for a second. Let's follow John's theory here for a second. If IUPUI were to win with 5 players, there'd be a movie made about this team. It would be Hoosiers 2. So, anyway.
Let's just see who. Let me take a look at the bracket and see who they would end up playing should they advance. I think I'm just going to take.
Well, it's not going to get easier because.
Well, no, I just want to see who it might be that they'll end up playing. Oh, they would, as the lowest seed, they would play the highest remaining seed.
Right.
So they would end up playing. If they were to pull this massive upset, they would play Cleveland State.
Okay.
Now, just for the fun of it, Cleveland State beat IUPUI 83-45 when they met on February 12th.
Hey.
So that doesn't bode well either. Should they magically pull that off?
Well, you know what? Let's
just have a eulogy right now for IUPUI season.
See you next season, boys.
They were here.
They came.
They
saw.
took the court. They came. They saw. They got beat up. They left.
They came. They saw, and they were conquered. So, well, okay.
Thanks for showing up. You get some parting. Don't forget your parting gifts on the way out. Now you get a copy of our home game.
Yeah, you get a few burgers on the way out. Okay.
Yeah.
This one a bit of a one-sided game. Let's go to something a little closer.
All right, we'll go to the Mid-American Conference, where the Ohio Bobcats favored by 8.5 over the Bowling Green Falcons in the Battle of Teams from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio 23-6 overall. They are 14-4 in the Mid-American. They're 8-4 on the road. Meanwhile, Bowling Green 12-17. Bowling Green, I don't know what happened to them. They're supposed to be a better team than this. They're just 5-13 in the conference. They're 8-7 at home. Ohio 87th in scoring offense at 74.8 points a game, despite being mediocre in field goal percentage. They do shoot a lot of threes. They're 34th by knocking down 9.2 threes a game. They're decent at the free throw line. The funny thing about Bowling Green is they can score points. They're actually 7th in the country. They average 81.1 points a game. The bad thing for Bowling Green is they don't know what defense is. They're 353rd in scoring defense, giving up 80.1 points a game, 265th in field goal percentage, 307th inside the arc. They give up 9.4 threes a game, which is 347th in the country, and 239th in three-point defense. Just to show you how bad things have been for Bowling Green lately. At one point, they were 11-9. Since then, they're 1-8, and in that stretch, they have given up at least 91 points on 4 occasions. And they've also given up at least 82 points in another game. They haven't held anybody. No, I take that back. In this last 9-game stretch, they've held one team under 78 points. 76 points. I just saw that. And that was Northern Illinois, another team that can't score. Now, like I said, you've given up 91 points 4 times in 9 games. You gave up 112 to Buffalo. And you're coming off an 11-point loss at home to Western Michigan, a team that had 1 road win all season. In that game, they led by 9 in the second half, and then scored 3 points in a 9-minute span to turn the game around. Now, if you can't beat Western Michigan in your own arena, and you're facing an Ohio team, and A is near the top of the conference, B is aggravated after they lost to Akron the other day, 91-83. And C, a team that already beat you once. I don't have any faith in you here. On top of that, Bowling Green has 3 guys that average in double figures, right?
Yep.
2 of them got kicked off the team a couple weeks ago. So, Bowling Green doesn't have Joe Reese. They don't have Byron Gordon. It's going to take Daquan Plowden having a Ja Morant-type game from yesterday for Bowling Green to even hang in this game. And I don't see it happening, folks.
Quick question. Can those 2 guys that got kicked off the team get to IUPUI before the game starts today?
I mean, they probably could. I mean, they got kicked off the team 2 weeks ago.
Transfer portal, quick. Transfer portal.
Do they have their paperwork in? I mean,
Yeah, we'll never know. I mean, it doesn't look like they're going to make it. But,
Ohio 6-1 against the spread their last 7 after giving up more than 90. They're 7-2 as a road favorite. Bowling Green 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 against teams with winning record. They're 0-6 in their last 6 overall. They're 0-5 in their last 5 as an underdog. And let's face it, Michael Huger's team is just awful.
Just not good. Quick little side note on the Ohio Bowling Green, and they call it the border war. Now you would think it's they're in the same state. Why would it be a border war? Here's the theory on that. The University of Ohio, from the campus, you can actually see West Virginia, and if you drive a little bit further, you can see West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Right? Go to Bowling Green, and you're looking at about a half hour to 40-minute drive to either Indiana or Michigan. So, hence the border war. but it doesn't seem like it's going to be much of a war, given the fact that Bowling Green is not going to be able to hang with Ohio tonight.
Now, just remember, everybody, from that game yesterday when Allie thought that Charleston and Hofstra was going to stay under the total. Just remember, that score ended up 89-84.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect something similar here, where Ohio's going to put up a whole bunch of points against the bad Bowling Green team and push that one over the total. I think the number is at, last I saw, it was like 150-something. Let me double check, because I looked at so many of these games. Yeah, 157. First meeting had 162. I don't see why they would score less points facing a bad Bowling Green team. Especially after seeing the way that Ohio gave up 91 to Akron. Over that one, they've gone over repeatedly of late. And Bowling Green can't stop anyone.
That's usually not a good recipe for success. Let's just put it that way.
This is true.
Before we get to the NHL, let's talk about my partner here in crime. That would be Chris King. Now, the Parlays King's Bet is something that Chris is putting out. It's called Chris King's Best Parlays, and it's bet each day. Now, every day Chris is going to send you his best parlay tickets to play, usually made up of 1, 2, 4, or even greater teams. Now, as you know, because you watch here, we get into a ton of it, but it can go to your email box every day. Not everyone's going to win. We know that, but we tell you that here too. The odds are, however, that Chris is going to make this profitable for you. In the last 2 weeks, Chris has won 6 2-team parlays, 4 4-team parlays, and 1 6-team parlay plus 2 8-team parlays, earning someone who might have bet $100 over $30,000 in winning. So, all the information on being part of Chris's little group, which we hope will be a big group as time goes by, is in the show box below. So please jump in and get involved. Now, time to go to the ice, where tonight there's a couple of intriguing games. Let's talk about the NHL, Christopher.
All right. Yeah, we're starting in Minnesota, where the Minnesota Wild are at home for the back half of a home set with the Calgary Flames. The Flames took the front end of that 7-3 the other night in Calgary. Nothing like winning at Cowtown. Now the Flames 31-14-6. Overall, they're 16-10-2 on the road. They're going to face a Minnesota team that plays well on home ice. But the problem is the Wild have been shaky at net. And having Cam Talbot start tonight 19-11-1 with a 294 goals against and a 910 save percentage doesn't necessarily move the needle that much when you're dealing with Jacob Markstrom, who's 24-11-5 with a 213 goals against and a 925 save percentage, along with those league-leading 8 shutouts for Calgary. The Flames 7th in goals for at 3.43. They're second in goals against at 2.43. Meanwhile, Minnesota 3rd in goals per game at 3.72, but they struggle keeping the puck out of their own net, which is a problem. Because even if you're the Oilers in your prime from the 80s when Gretzky and Curry and Anderson and Paul Coffey and all those guys were there, they still lost games because, their goaltending wasn't necessarily the best all the time. But even with Grant Fuhrer, depending on how he was doing in any particular moment. But that's why, you have Cementhead out there to, punch people in the face. Meanwhile, Calgary 5-0 in their last 5 after scoring 5 or more in their last contest, which we said they beat Minnesota 7-3. They're 4-0 in their last 4 against the Central Division. They're 4-0 in their last 4 against teams with a winning record. Minnesota struggled of late. They're 1-5 in their last 6. They're 1-5 in their last 6 when it's the second game of a home set, and they're 0-4 in their last 4 as an underdog. Now, I don't expect Calgary to win by multiple goals. I just put the puck line up there in case anybody wants to chase it, since there is a favorable number to it. But I do expect the Flames to win this game. They've played well for Coach Sutter, and they've been shutting teams down. They have, other than that aberration where they got completely curb stomped by Vancouver last week, they've been limiting teams to about 2 goals a game in the last dozen games. And when you're holding teams down like that, it puts you in a prime position to win hockey games.
It does, and the Flames have played Calgary has been a team that we've been, bullish on for most of the season. They've been consistent. They haven't had a lot of, up and down situations where others have. And they've just been plodding their way along, but plodding their way along in a good way.
Now, not to change topics here for a second, Jim, but I'd like to get your take on this. As apparently, former UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez was arrested for attempted murder. Have you heard about this?
I have, indeed, yeah.
Now, what do you make of this? Is this something that's actually going to pan out, where he's going to end up, where it's going to go to trial, or is it going to be one of those things where it's a name and it's just going to go away?
Well, if you're accused of murder, okay, this is not a plea bargain away type thing, and I don't mean to make light of it. So, what normally happens in a case like that is, you sit down, they go through the process, and it's a due process situation. So they'll go through the due process. If the charge sticks, then he'll go to trial, and then we'll find out. But no, it's we've had some pretty terrible situations in sports over the past few months with guys getting in trouble. This is unfortunately just another one of them. This one, however, seems, at least in face value, as we wait to find out, because again, it's a due process situation. It is, however, a very serious and very interesting story to follow, to be sure.
And now, in other news, Isaiah Thomas, not that Isaiah Thomas, we're not talking about Zeke, he's not coming out of retirement. Mm-hmm. The other Isaiah Thomas signing a 10-day contract with the Hornets.
Why?
Well, I guess Charlotte needs help. They've lost 11 of 13. They were beaten last night by the Bucks. Isaiah Thomas has averaged 41 points in his 3 games since the Grand Rapids Gold of the G League in the past week. Is he going to help anybody at this point? I mean, he was an all-star, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Then, he had that hip injury. Hasn't really played much in the last couple of years. He's had 10-day deals with the Lakers and the Mavs and played 5 games this year. Mm-hmm. Is he going to help Charlotte?
Look, it's a flyer. I mean, it's not costing them much money to do it. So if he comes in and he strikes lightning, great. If he doesn't, well, they can just, would you say he was on a 10-day contract?
Yeah.
Okay. He's got 10 days to prove whether he's worthy of it or not. They, on the other hand, figure, what do they got to lose? It's a low dollar figure. It's not a cap issue. So, what the hell? Bring him in, dress him up, see if he can hit.
And the other big story that I wanted to touch on was Art Briles. He was going to be the offensive coordinator at Grambling. Then all of a sudden, yesterday, he made the decision that he was not going to take the job. What do you make of Art Briles?
Well, first of all, let's go that he resigned. He wasn't bounced from Grambling.
Well, that's what I mean. He decided not to take the job.
Well, he took the job. Then he had the job. Then Grambling took a great deal of heat for it from what happened at Baylor. And so rather than, put the Grambling football program through, a constant drone of why did you hire Art Briles, he decided that the best thing for him to do for the Grambling Tigers was to go ahead and exit. I don't know. I mean,
is Briles ever going to get a fair shake again?
That's the question. I mean, Briles came away from there relatively unscathed from a standpoint of actual. We were just talking about with regard to in a due process, right? Briles went through a lot of scrutiny at Baylor. He was decided that he had to go, and that's understandable under the circumstances. But is Art Briles guilty of anything. And at this point in time, poor judgment, yes. I don't think anybody would argue that point. But is he worthy of a second chance? Well, certainly Grambling thought he was. I mean, it's not like they didn't know him. All they did do is Google his name, and everybody could figure that one out.
Well, that's what I mean. Is he took the job. There's a ton of backlash, and now he doesn't have a job again.
Right.
But you look at the rest of the people that were involved in that situation in Baylor. Right. Ken Starr, obviously, no name from anybody that's remembers the Whitewater investigation and everything else, and Ron, and he resigned, but he's still doing things. And Ian McCall was the athletic director.
Right.
He was forced out, and 6 months later, he got the job at Liberty.
Right.
Meanwhile, we're going on 6 years now, and Briles can't get a job.
Right.
So what makes Briles be the scapegoat? Why did nobody go after and say, well, why should Ian McCall get a job? Nobody protested when he took the job at Liberty as an AD there. Mm-hmm. Nobody's gone after Ken Starr. What is it that we're going to tag Art Briles for?
Well, evidently they're tagging him for everything.
But that's what I mean. Does that seem fair to you?
No, it doesn't. I mean, look, I am absolutely 100% against. I mean, I've got I got 7 nieces, so I'm definitely against everything that happened at Baylor. Okay,
right.
That part of it is totally stipulated. The point is, was it Art Briles' fault? And the fact of the matter is, as you said, in over 7 years, the answer to that question is no, it's not. Was he stupid in not understanding or seeing it? Probably yes. But stupid doesn't necessarily mean you're guilty of anything. It just means you're stupid. And, so Art Briles, the Art Briles attempt to get back into the coaching business has been impeded by this. And you got to wonder if there's ever going to be a day when Art Briles is going to, find his way back to and this was a coordinator's position that, being honest, it doesn't pay a lot of money, but it's a high-profile situation with a good HBC. This would be a question that might be better for L.A. Bachelor and his tightness with what's going on with the HBCs. But I don't see where Art Briles is not given, an opportunity. I mean, Pitino went through an issue somewhat similar in Louisville, and he's doing fine at Iona.
Right.
So I don't know what the deal is with Art. I mean, I don't know how much penance he has to pay for stuff that somebody else did. You talked about the president of the university at the time was Ken Starr. I mean, he was supposedly the gold standard when they brought him in. The AD is gone now and is at Liberty. Maybe if who's it? It's
Hugh Freeze is the football coach at Liberty, and we know the issues he had.
Yeah, I was going to say Hugh Freeze is found himself a second life at Liberty. Maybe although Hugh is an offensive guy, maybe Liberty seems like they've been the place to go when you're serving your penance. But I don't understand why Art's getting this backlash, given the fact that, was he there when it happened? Yes. So were a bunch of guys. Was he the one that hit it? Not really, no. The coach can't hide what's going on. The AD and the president paid for it, and so did Art. But they seem to, have gone on to be, bigger and better things. Art's been, actually Art was coaching high school football. Before he got that gig. Sorry?
He coached in Italy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's become a pariah. I don't know why. But, we'll see.
Yeah, not to stray off. Those were just things that I was thinking about. I was talking to Zeke Fracassi about yesterday and stuff like that. It didn't make a lot of sense. I just want to get your take on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, Art Briles was in many ways complicit to not understanding what was going on in his program. That's a problem, okay? But is it a problem that is unforgivable? I don't know. I mean, evidently it is at Grambling. And you have to give him credit for falling on the sword because there wasn't any pressure from the athletic department for him to leave. I mean, as I said, they knew who he was when they hired him.
Right.
So you wouldn't make that hire if you're going to turn around and a week later get rid of the guy. But what happened was, a week later, was an opportunity where the pressure was put on him, and Art, being what I thought was a good gesture on his part, was like, look, I don't want to put Grambling through this, but maybe it's time that I leave the program and go on to something else. And as we said, there's not much for him to go on to because it's not like people are beating his door down to get to him. It's a shame. It's a shame that he's not getting a second chance. So we will see if he does. And certainly, Baylor has, as a matter of fact, Baylor, a couple of his assistants have done well. So, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I went through the thing at Penn State, and, that whole thing where Bobby Bowden was, because Bobby at Florida State ran, there wasn't a kid that Bobby didn't think that he could turn around. He was, Bobby was a man of faith who thought, there's nobody here who, there's no such thing as a bad kid, there's just a kid that didn't get a chance. And that was Bobby's theory. And Bobby would bring him there, and 9 times out of 10, he'd be able to turn it. But there'd be times when it didn't work. And when it didn't work, he got beat up for it. And all the time that he got beat up as he kept winning and winning and winning, everything that got thrown back in Bobby's face was, well, he's not Joe Paterno. What the wonderful job that they do at Penn State, running their program like, squeaky clean. Well, we all found out that was not the case, okay, at Penn State. It wasn't squeaky clean. And this whole Sandusky situation and what Joe knew and didn't know went to Joe's, to the grave with Joe. But, just not unlike what you're talking about, the president of the university was gone, the athletic director was gone, they came very close to going to the death penalty. And I remember getting a phone call from a friend of mine saying, you got to turn on TV. And I said, why? It's Sunday morning at 7:30 in the morning. And he says, because they're taking down Joe Paterno's statue at the football stadium in State College. And within a half an hour, you would not have known that Joe Paterno ever coached at Penn State. So, things happen at a rapid pace. I don't understand what the Art Briles thing is because that was laid wide open. And so we'll see. But some people are willing to forgive, others not so much. And we'll find out. I mean, I hope that Art gets a job. He's, as I say, he's served. How much do you want in the way of serving a penance? Do you want to give somebody a second chance, or do you just say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I can never get over this"? And that's maybe where we are at the moment. At least it seems to be the way we are at the moment for Art. All right, we got another hockey game, right?
Yep.
All right, going back.
And we're going to go to Barry Trotz land as the Islanders are on the road to face the Avalanche. Now, John said it a couple weeks ago when he thought the Islanders were dead in the water. If they weren't dead yet, they're going to be soon because this week they have to play Colorado, and then I believe there's a couple of other ugly games coming up for the Isles.
I think they get Vegas, too.
That sounds right. I'm just going to take a quick look here and see who they've got coming up because I know that they couldn't beat up on the bad teams last week when they had the opportunity. They lost to they lost to San Jose, they lost to the Kings.
Yeah.
Before that, they lost to Buffalo. They get Colorado, Vancouver, St. Louis, Colorado, and Columbus in the next 5. So
this might
who knows?
be,
You get Colorado twice in a week.
This might be the Islanders' IUPUI moment when we're starting the death knell for the Islanders. Sorry, Barry.
Yeah, the Islanders 20-21 and 8. They're 10-11-4 on the road. They got to face a Colorado team that is 39-10-4. They are 22-3-2 on home ice. Ilya Sorokin 17-11-7 with a .237 goals against, a .923 save percentage, and 5 shutouts. Expected to start for the Islanders against Darcy Kemper. Was 26-6-2 with a .246 goals against, a .920 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. The big difference here, obviously, coming offensively, the Islanders are 27th in goals per game at 2.53. The Avalanche are second at 3.96. That goes up over 4 goals a game on home ice. The Islanders 5-22 in their last 27 against teams with a winning record. They are 2-10 in their last 12 as a road underdog. They're 0-6 after they win a game, so they haven't figured out how to put together a 2-game win streak in a while. They're 4-0. The Avalanche 4-0 in their last 4 on 2 days of rest. They're 43-8 in their last 51 against a team with a losing record. Colorado is 43-9 in their last 52 at home. And the Islanders have lost 5 of 6 over here in the altitude at the Ball Arena. Like Sly said, Colorado murdered the Jets last week. It doesn't bode well for Barry's boys up in the Rocky Mountains. I guess they can get some Coors Light, but that's about it.
That's about the only thing they're going to get. And, you brought up the point that of all... you could make the argument to basketball, yes. But the speed and the amount of energy you have to expend in a hockey game is, I don't think anybody, I shouldn't say anybody, but I don't think a lot of people understand how much energy you expand, that you put forth in a hockey game. When you're playing at altitude and that third period comes around and you're coming from the East Coast, you're gasping for air. And, there may not be enough oxygen in the building for Barry's team. And Barry's team, because they're a defensive team, they play a lot of, motion and a lot of stuff to keep the puck out of the net. That expends a lot of energy. So, I think you're right on point here with Colorado, because it just doesn't seem to be, the Islanders' makeup of how they expend their energy versus the Avalanche being very good at exploiting their opponents' bad points bodes well for a Colorado win.
Yeah, and Matt brought up a point with the trade deadline coming up. There's always a swing at this point. And talk about the Blues a couple of years ago when they went from out of the playoffs to winning the Cup. The problem with that, Matthew, for the Islanders is that they're 17 points behind the Capitals for the second wild card spot. Mm-hmm. Now, they do have games in hand, but if you're playing as badly as New York has played, and they don't score much, the concern is, are they going to be able to do anything with those games in hand to make up any ground? And when you've got to face Colorado twice in the next week, it doesn't necessarily bode all that well for their chances. Sure, Washington has stumbled. They lost last night, and they've dropped 3 in a row, I think 9 of 11 or something like that. But the fact remains that when you've got that much of a lead, the ticking time works in your favor. Right. And unless Trotz's team can suddenly find some offense, I don't think they're going to make up that kind of ground.
Barry's team's not built to make up that kind of ground. But to Matthew's point on the trade deadline, I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado went out and found themselves a couple of little things to tweak that to that team, that to get them to the point where they feel comfortable that they can make a run at the Cup. It's a Stan Kroenke-owned team, so need I say more, Rams fans? He I don't know what their cap
Waiting for her to
situation.
spend more money on the Nuggets, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Case.
I don't know who's. I don't know where they are under the cap, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tinkered a little bit in Colorado to get themselves in a position where they feel that they can make a strong cup run.
Well, Elliott says that the Islanders are going to play defense and Sorokin will stand on his head to win. But he's going to stand on his head and the Avs are still going to win 3-1, so
Okay.
You're not taking the Islanders to win this one, right, Elliott? Sorokin's just going to keep the Avs down to 3? I was going to say, I mean...
that's possible.
There was that game where Ottinger stood on his head a couple weeks ago when Dallas went in there, and they took a 4-1 win, but Ottinger had to make like 45 or 47 stops to stay in that game. And it's tough because the difference between the Stars and the Islanders is the Stars can actually score a little bit. Okay, yeah, Elliott says, so Sorokin will keep them in the game, but the Islanders' lack of offense is still going to cost them the contest.
That's a legitimate point.
I would agree with that. I mean, Sorokin has played well.
Yeah.
He's lost a bunch of games because the Islanders don't score.
Right. Well, look at his save percentage. His save percentage is better than the guy we think has a legit chance at the Vezina Trophy.
This is true.
So, Matthew's point is a point well taken. No, they're not going to win, but could they keep it close? I mean, again, when Trotz's teams have legitimately always been considered defensively, well suited, yeah. I mean, they're a backline team. They're not a frontline team. That's where Chris just said it. The problem is they don't score goals. And, you're not going to win a lot of 2-1, 1-0 games. It's just not going to happen.
No, I mean, even Buffalo had issues with that in the 90s when they had Dominic Hasek.
Right, yeah.
I remember the game in the playoffs against New Jersey where he made 70 saves, and the final score of that game was 1-0 in quadruple overtime.
Well, look how far over the many years that Sir Heinrich was in the net in New York. How many times did they win the cup?
Right.
It didn't happen. So defense is good, but you got to score some points, and unfortunately, they're not. Hey, before we go to the NBA, let's talk about our second promotion. We already told you about the first one from MGM. Here is a cool one for NBA fans. Be sure to take advantage of our BetMGM NBA promo. First-time users of the BetMGM app deposit and place a bet of $10. That's all you have to do is put $10, put some skin in the game, and the NBA, anytime you do that, you put that $10 down, you get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer, okay? Pretty good chance, and we got a team coming up here in the show in just a minute that might hit a few three-pointers. You never know. So that might be a lot of fun. So give it a shot, and as we always say, you have to be 21 years of age to participate. And always bet responsibly. And so here we go to the association, my friend.
Well, real quick, I just want to touch on some of the games that James asked about before about college, because we were talking about Art Briles and everything. I don't want to think we missed him. Florida Gulf Coast, they're playing North Alabama in the Atlantic Sun Tournament. First meeting between these teams did not go North Alabama's way. Florida Gulf Coast rolled them 92-60. The line's 11. Florida Gulf Coast obviously at home because they're the better team. That's the way they play these smaller conferences. The home team gets, or the team with the better record gets a home team. Probably the over is also a safe bet at over 142. North Alabama averages 63 field goal attempts a game. Florida Gulf Coast gives up 61. Florida Gulf Coast will bury you from the three-point line. They knock down about 10 threes a game. And I think playing at home, you have to think that Florida Gulf Coast will cover the line there and move on to the second round in a high-scoring affair over North Alabama. You're asking about Buffalo and Toledo. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be perfectly honest. It's a game I'm staying away from just because of the fact Buffalo's favored by 2. The Bulls have won 9 in a row. They swept Northern Illinois over the weekend. But Toledo is Toledo. They're 23-6. They lead the MAC with a 15-3 conference record, and they won the first meeting in Toledo by 11. But that was back when before Buffalo got hot. Now Buffalo lost that game. Then they lost to Ohio by 21 at home, and since then they've beaten everyone soundly. It's going to be a tight game, I think. Obviously, these are two teams that are right in that 4 or 5 team cluster at the top of the MAC, because you've got Toledo, you've got Ohio, you've got Kent State, you've got Buffalo, and then you've got Akron, who kind of stumbles a little bit. That's one of those games that's going to go right down the wire, and I don't want anything to do with it from a betting perspective. Being from Buffalo, I would say take Buffalo, but I wouldn't be confident about it because both teams are very good on the offensive end of the floor. And I'm not, so like Jim always says, sometimes the best bet is the one you don't make. That would be the case there, at least from my perspective. Regarding Kennesaw State and Eastern Kentucky, that's right, the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, not the Eastern Kentucky Colonel Sanders. Kennesaw State favored by 4. I think they'll cover that. Eastern Kentucky 1-12 on the road this season. Hasn't been a good year for them. They've only covered in 3 of their 13 road games. Kennesaw State, they were beaten by Eastern Kentucky in triple overtime, and the only meeting they had this season that was at Eastern Kentucky. But Kennesaw State plays better at home. Not like the records really bear that out because neither team is overly great. But home court advantage means a lot in these small conference tournaments in the early going, and based on that, I'm going to roll with Kennesaw State -4 as they move on to the second round, much to the chagrin of Colonel Sanders.
This is true. Hey, as we head over to the NBA, the one thing that you're talking about Florida Gulf Coast, an interesting piece of a bit of information on Florida Gulf Coast is the Florida Gulf Coast women's basketball team is ranked 20th in the country, and considered a bona fide terror once they get into the NCAA tournament. So,
my wife's cousin played at Florida Gulf Coast a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Well, just more than a couple of years ago now. He transferred from Michigan and spent a few years down there.
It's a great school, very pretty campus right on the beach.
As for talk about the Toledo-Buffalo game, it should go over. I know the number is, I just saw it a minute ago. Let's see, where'd I put it? They combined for 161 in the first meeting. That's right about where this number is for tonight's game. You look at UB's numbers lately, Buffalo has put up, I know the Northern Illinois games were lower scoring games. Before that, they had totals 150. In this stretch, they had 166, 154, 197, 152, 160, 170 before the Northern Illinois games. Toledo, obviously capable of putting up points in their last stretch, 172, 142, 161 in their win over Miami of Ohio. I'd probably lean towards the over there just because these teams like to run. It's going to be an entertaining contest for sure. Elliot, if you ever come to Buffalo and say Buffalo Wild Wings, you will probably not survive getting out of the airport. We don't call them Buffalo Wings, we just call them wings. Anybody that calls them Buffalo Wings should never come to Buffalo because you will be deported immediately.
One other food point. Chinese food in China is just food.
There you go, that's breaking news.
No, I'm just saying, why would you go to Buffalo and ask for a buffalo wing? I mean, it's like going to China and asking for Chinese food. It was created in Buffalo. There's no need. And Buffalo Wild Wings, by the way, was never started in Buffalo. So there's that as well.
Yeah, Elliot, ask the Disco Inferno what happened the last time he went to Buffalo and tried to go to the Anchor Bar and asked for buffalo wings.
It wasn't pretty.
No, it was not.
All right, let's go to the association. Win some money for the folks at the old MGM. The Celtics and the Hawks. There's a...
Yep. Steve Cody from Boston. Go ahead, Jim.
was just going to say, this is not the Celtics and the Hawks of the Bird Dominique days. Quick story, Dominique Wilkins had a great story about Larry Bird. And it was in Game 6 of the finals, Eastern Conference Finals, a few years back when they were playing. And the Hawks were up by 20 at the half. And Casey Jones goes into the locker room. And Kevin McHale picked up the story and said, Casey Jones walks over to the cooler, reaches down, grabs a beer, pops the top off the beer, drinks the beer, doesn't say a word, walks in, over, gets another beer, pops the top on it, sits down, drinks that beer, looks at his watch, goes over, grabs a third beer, pops the top on it, drinks it, sits down, looks at his watch, gets up and says, guys, you're going to go out there and you can win this game because you're better than they are. They know you're better than they are. And we know we're better than they are. Because Bird goes out and puts up a ridiculous number in the second half. And that was it. Game was over. And Dominique was talking about, we awakened the beast. And you got to be careful anytime you awaken the beast. And so that was then. This is now. They are not the same two teams. They're not teams. Neither one of these teams is going to be in this year's Eastern Conference Final. That's my own personal opinion. We'll see.
My favorite series between Wilkins and Bird was the '88 Eastern Conference semifinals, where Boston they went up 2-0, then they lost 3 in a row, then they won Game 6 by 2, and then Game 7 was that Bird-Wilkins showdown,
right,
where Wilkins finished with 47, and Bird had 34,
right,
but Kevin McHale had 33, and they won 118-116 at the Boston Garden.
Well, and McHale took himself out in that game toward the end of the game, and Bird screamed at him and said, where are you going? And he said, I'm tired. And he goes, everybody's tired. Get back over here. And he goes, but Larry, I need 90 seconds. I'll come back. And
Bird played 47 minutes in that game.
Yep. So, that Celtics team with Larry and Kevin and DJ and Robert Parrish and all that.
And Danny Ainge.
And Danny Ainge, yeah.
And you look at the other side, and the Hawks had Dominique Wilkins, they had Doc Rivers, they had Kevin Willis, good old Tree Rollins, who is slow. Spud Webb played only 6 minutes in that game.
The Spudster. There you go.
Imagine that. He sat behind Doc Rivers and probably only played because Doc Rivers fouled out.
Yeah, there's that. Or got thrown out. One of the two. But yeah, those were some phenomenal games back when Neek was lighting up the Omni. But yep, it's the only thing I can remember. A vivid memory of being in a food line with Robert Parrish at an airport, and Parrish just towers above me, and as he would. He got a Danish. It was a cherry Danish, and he dropped it, and it landed on top of my head, cherry jam first. So,
probably between that and the Otis Bird songs, Terry, you've got a whole bunch of good stuff.
Yeah, my constant disasters with NBA players. Yeah, that would be it. So.
But yeah, tonight I like the Celtics at home. I mean, Atlanta's good offensively, but they're going to run into a Boston team that's excellent on the defensive end of the floor. They're going to give them 103.9 points a game. They lead the league in field goal percentage defense. And look at the next number there, Jim. The Hawks 1-11 against the spread in their last 12 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage better than 600. They're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 as a road underdog. They are 1-4 in their last 5 on the road. And Trae Young, he's going to have to carry the load because John Collins still out with that foot injury. He's only 21 of 63 from the field and 6 of 27 from beyond the arc in 3 games against the Celtics this year.
Oof. Yeah. That ain't good.
Those kind of numbers aren't going to get it done, especially playing at the TD Garden. Granted, it doesn't have the mystique of the old Boston Garden, but still.
That's right. Come on, boys. All right, let's go to two for the money. Let's blow through this.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Got this one, Jim.
Oh,
You're
Golden
talking about
State.
teams that hit
That's
threes.
right. I mentioned we're talking about the opportunity to hit that good deal with MGM on the threes. You know, Steph Curry, come on down.
Yep, the Warriors only a 1-point favorite, but that's because half their rotation seems to be out of the lineup. Klay Thompson not expected to play tonight with an illness. Andre Iguodala has been out for an extended period now. I'm not sure if they've determined when Draymond Green's going to play.
I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think he is either. I'm just going to take a quick look here and see if they updated anything, because you never know.
This is
of course,
true.
the way the injury report goes, it can change between now and then anyway, because half these guys can get scratched. No, Draymond Green's still out. Thompson, like I said, is out. James Wiseman hasn't played all year. Nemanja Bjelica is questionable with a quad injury. Minnesota doesn't have an injury report in yet, but the problem for the Timberwolves is they're playing the second game of back-to-back. They beat Cleveland yesterday. Sticking with that exciting trend of putting up a crap load of points when they play on the road and not scoring a ton of points when they're at home. They beat the Cavs 127-122. Unfortunately for Minnesota, they're 3-7. They've been outscored by nearly 7 points a game in the second game of back-to-back situations. Now they have to face a Golden State team that's third in the league in scoring defense at 103.6, second in field goal percentage defense, second in three-point defense. Meanwhile, Minnesota 23rd in scoring defense at 112.3 points a game, 15th in field goal percentage defense, and 16th in three-point defense. Minnesota 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 as an underdog. They've gone 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 in the second game of a back-to-back. They're 0-3-1 in their last 4 following a straight-up win. If you're only going to make me give 1 point with Golden State, I'll take it. Minnesota is going to fall apart again in the second game of a back-to-back set, especially with the way Golden State likes to run.
Well, and Cleveland, Cleveland likes to wear you out too.
That's true.
So if you just came off a night with Cleveland, the last thing you want to see is Golden State.
That's a valid point.
So there you go, boys and girls. Put your money on the Warriors tonight. All right, let's go for 2 for the money.
All right. Hey, well, we just talked about the Celtics.
How about that?
Can you believe that? I don't think we need to go over it again.
There's a couple of teams we already talked about.
Yep.
Ohio and Washington.
Yep, Ohio over Bowling Green. We talked about it. Bowling Green, they've just gone right downhill, and kicking off 2 of your top 3 scorers doesn't help you any. It's going to be a rough night for the Falcons at home. I don't care if it's senior night or not. It might not be. I don't remember if Bowling Green has to go on the road for their finale or not.
Maybe that means fans over 65.
Sure. They have to play Toledo on Friday, so that won't be any better for Bowling Green. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah. Good old Tampa Bay playing down there at the Amalie Arena. As you see, the puck line is ridiculously prohibitive. But hey, if you like chasing minus 400 favorites, why not?
Yeah, go for it.
But I think they'll beat Ottawa by multiple goals anyway. Even the puck line seems to lean that way at minus 155. Mm-hmm. The Senators, they've been playing decent hockey, but you're going to Tampa Bay, and we know how Andre Vasilevsky performs on home ice. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay 17-4-4 at home. The Sens 9-11-3 on the road. Doesn't bode well for them. And then we talked about Colorado, the Avs. The puck line is a coin flip for them goals, which is funny considering the Islanders don't score. As we said, look for the Avs to prevail there.
Meanwhile, at 4 for the show.
Yep, and hey, look, there's Golden State.
They're back.
Well,
we got 2 Goldens. One Golden State and the other Golden Grizzlies.
Yeah, we've talked about IUPUI having 5 guys. We also talked about IUPUI losing by 26 points to Green Bay. And in case you were wondering about how good Green Bay was, they weren't.
Not.
The Phoenix 5-24 after that victory. They had lost 11 straight games. before drubbing the Jaguars 67-41. We said IUPUI lost by 33 points to Oakland in the one meeting they had this season, back when they had 10 guys. Now they got 5. Will we end up seeing Oakland play on the power play in this game? Who knows? Either way, it's going to be a bloodbath. So everybody get your last eulogies in for IUPUI, because their season's going to come to an end today.
Tomorrow will be a perfect day to start buying IUPUI merch, because I'm sure it's going to be on sale.
For about 3 cents.
Yep. They'll pay you to take it. Boise State. We talked about Boise State and the Nevada Wolfpack.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about it with Allie when she's been on and everything else. Fading Steve Alford is a full-time job. And
evidently, it's a very profitable one.
And yeah, I mean, you look at Nevada, they don't play very good defense. Outside of Cambridge and Sherfield, they don't necessarily have a ton of offensive weaponry to be fearful of. They lost by 13 at Wyoming on Saturday. They lost to UNLV before that. Everybody wants to talk about the 3-game win streaks they had earlier in February. But 2 of those wins were a home-and-home set with San Jose State, who everybody knows is horrible. Speaking of horrible games, San Jose State tonight on the road against Air Force. In a game that if you're tired but you can't fall asleep, tune in and watch it. You'll be unconscious in about 5 minutes.
Bryce wants to know about what happened to Wyoming yesterday, boss.
Bryce, I wish I could tell you what happened to Wyoming. The big issue for them was Graham Ike and Hunter Maldonado didn't get enough shots. Ike was shut down pretty well. He was, 4 of 12 or something like that from the floor. Maldonado was 6 of 17. San Diego State played good defense, and Matt Bradley had a good game offensively for San Diego State. I mean, he had 30 points. I don't think anybody expected him to shoot the ball 20 times or knock down 5 threes. And by the same token, I don't think anybody expected San Diego State to hit as many three-pointers as they did twos. In that game, San Diego State was 12 of 36 inside the arc, but they were 12 of 22 from three-point range. That was really the difference in the game. If you had asked me before the game and tell me San Diego State was going to shoot 54.5% from three-point range, I would have thought you were on crack. But that was the difference. They hit their threes. I mean, Trey Pulliam hit 4 out of 6. Nobody would expect. He was 2 for 5. Adam Seiko was 3 of 4. Nobody would have expected that out of him. And I mean, kudos to Brian Dutcher. He had a good defensive strategy. They clamped down on Maldonado and Ike and made it tough. Tried to make other guys beat him. And Wyoming didn't get enough points from guys like Jeffries and Dussel and Oden. And so, I mean, kudos to them. They went on the road. They won in the Dome of Doom. Will it help their chances for an at-large bid? Sure it will. Will it hurt Wyoming? Hopefully not. I really want to see this Wyoming team in the tournament. See if they can wreak some havoc with people.
Yep. All right, let's go for the menu.
Already. Yeah, we got some ugly numbers on here, but that's because I think that these teams will cover the line anyway. Ohio State should bounce back from their horrible performance against Maryland. I guess they forgot to show up. That game over the weekend, very disappointing, losing there. But they're at home against a Nebraska team that has been brutal. The Cornhuskers, they did beat Penn State on the road, but that just gave them 2 wins in their last 16 games. I don't expect them to have that kind of success again. They lost to Ohio State in Lincoln back in January. I expect the Buckeyes will take care of business. In the Patriot League, our good buddies, Pete Medhurst was on, talked to us about it on Friday. I like Lafayette over Bucknell. Lafayette, they've played some good basketball at times. I mean, they're inconsistent, but so are a lot of teams in the Patriot that aren't Navy or Colgate. Bucknell has been bad all season. And Bucknell finds ways to blow leads against Lafayette. They were up double digits in the first game and lost in overtime. Bucknell was up 17 at home in the second half of the second meeting at Lafayette, saw Lafayette force overtime and then finally pulled it out 92-89. But if you can't hold a lead in your own building when you're up 17 in the second half and you need overtime to get a win, I'm not trusting you here. I'm going to go with Youngstown State over Robert Morris. Let's face it, Robert Morris lost to IUPUI.
That's enough.
Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything else about their chances about going to Youngstown State and facing the Penguins. I know Youngstown State's like this, where they go up and they go down. You know, they'll at least see another day in the Horizon League tournament with a win here. Houston. What can we say about Houston? They're facing Cincinnati.
So they're Allie's team.
Yep. Cincinnati, you know, they cost me a 6-team parlay over the weekend when they lost to South Florida. Thanks a lot, Jim.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's not what I heard.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, they've lost 5 of 6. They've lost 3 in a row. They lost to Temple. They lost to UCF. They lost to South Florida. They also have losses at Tulsa and home against Memphis in that stretch. Their one win was a win at home over Wichita State. I think Cincinnati's pretty much played themselves out of the tournament at this point. Now that they're 17-12 and they're 7-9, the Bearcats should be wiped out here.
Can you spell
Houston.
NIT?
I don't even know if I'd put them in the NIT at this point. I mean, they'll probably get in there, but they shouldn't. Just with as badly as they played down the stretch. NBA, Dallas over the Lakers. Let's face it, I'm just going to keep fading the Lakers until the season's over.
There's a lot of angst on that team. Everybody's pointing fingers at each other. It's like a circular firing squad going on.
Yeah, it's not going to get any better, let's be honest. Washington over Detroit in the game that nobody cares about. Two teams going nowhere fast. Okay, nobody here cares about.
There you go.
The Raptors and the Nets, these teams played yesterday, for those of you that were wondering. Toronto whipped up on the Nets. And bad news for Nets fans. Everybody knows Kyrie Irving can't play in Brooklyn. Well, guess what? The other place he can't play,
Toronto.
He can't cross the border.
He'll be sitting home watching this game.
Yeah, he'll be watching it on TV. So will Kevin Durant, so will Joe Harris and Ben Simmons. Andre Drummond is questionable. So is Cam Thomas. The Nets couldn't be looking like the bubble Nets of a couple of years ago where, you know, they just had to scrape guys up off the street and put them in the lineup. Toronto should win that one again.
Ooh, you're picking Le Habitant over the Winnipeg Jets.
This is just desperation because Montreal has actually played good hockey since getting Martin St. Louis and his coach. Winnipeg, as much as I know Sly likes them and everything, I've just been concerned about the way they've played lately. They've slid backwards. They did beat Arizona the other day, but before that they had lost 4 in a row, losing to Edmonton, Calgary, Dallas, and Colorado. This could be a good get-right spot for the Jets. Hopefully for them it is, because everybody knows I hate the Canadians. Montreal won 5 in a row.
If they didn't before, they do know now, yes.
Yeah, but you have to think about it. They've won 5 in a row. Before that, they had 8 wins all season. Mm-hmm. So, let's face it, Montreal's not getting in the playoffs, but, you know, at least they showed some signs of life. Columbus over New Jersey. I know New Jersey beat up Vancouver yesterday because Bruce Boudreau did not take my phone call. Mm-hmm. And that's his own damn fault. But now New Jersey has to go to Columbus. Tough to play the second game of back-to-back.
Especially against Columbus.
Sly says about the Montreal game, he expects it to be a revenge game after Mark Scheifele got hit. So look for fights. So, hey, if you're looking for fights, tune into that one, because there aren't enough fights in the National Hockey League anymore. Finally, the Edmonton Oilers and the Flyers over 6.5. I know the Flyers did beat Washington 2-1 the other day. I know everybody's all excited. The Flyers snapped another 87-game losing streak.
when beating the Caps lately is nothing to get excited about.
But when you're a Flyers team that have lost 6 in a row,
you get excited.
Yeah. But Edmonton, we know that they can light the lamp.
Mm-hmm.
We know that both teams are terrible on the defensive end of the ice. It's supposed to be Mikko Koskinen for the Oilers against Carter Hart. I guess the one plus that you can say about this is at least Philadelphia isn't going to start Martin Jones in net. But either way, I think this one's going to end up a 4-3, 5-3, God knows, 3 type of game and end up over the total. Just, I have no faith in either goaltender, let's be honest.
There you go.
Elliott, right, Edmonton's overrated, but they still have Draisaitl and McDavid to lead the way offensively, and that's enough to do a lot of damage to scoreboards across the league. Philadelphia does not know what goaltending is.
Yeah. Philadelphia is not overrated. That's one thing we can tell you right now.
This is true.
Nothing to worry about there. All right, so any final questions here as we cruise
what about Pitt?
Pitt? Who are they playing?
Pitt is a 14.5-point underdog at home against Duke.
Don't play that game, all right? Just stay away from that game.
They haven't played this season, but I mean, let's face it,
Pitt's not good, and Krzyzewski in Pittsburgh. Krzyzewski's gotten a lot of good Western Pennsylvania players in his. There might be more people rooting for Duke in the arena tonight than Pitt. So I'm not so sure you want to get involved in that.
The only way that Pitt hangs in this game is if Duke has a hangover from beating Syracuse and is caught looking ahead at North Carolina Saturday. Other than that, I have no faith in Pitt.
If you want to bet on a team in Western Pennsylvania, Chris gave it to you, and that's the Robert Morris game.
Yep.
Go with that one. You got a much better chance of winning with a Western Pennsylvania team in that one. And you're not that Robert Morris is going to win, but they can deliver for you with what Chris has got hanging out there. But man, buddy, I know a lot about Pitt. I've got a lot of family members who went there, my father included. Not today, my friends, not today.
And James, you're right, IUPUI sucks, but yeah, I think Oakland is going to cover, like I said, IUPUI only has 5 guys. That's it. We're not talking about the burger chain. We're not talking where you're going to go get, 805 pounds of fries with your burger. We're talking about the fact that IUPUI has literally 5 players, and that's it.
I'll be honest,
like
I do not remember ever seeing a game where there's only 5 guys playing for one team.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the box score for the Green Bay game when they had 6, but like I said, the one guy left after 3 minutes. So the other 4 starters played 40 minutes. The sixth guy played 37 in place of the other guy. But that's it. They only got 5 guys, and they lost by 26 to Green Bay. Like we said, they had 10 guys in the first meeting against Oakland and lost by 33.
Oof. Yeah. So.
And Bryce asked Arizona USC. Jim, what do you have a take on that?
Ooh, that's a good game.
At the Galen Center.
It's okay. I'm going to go with SC. Are they getting points?
SC is getting.
They're getting points.
4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5.
I'll take the points. SC's played close games at home, winning and losing at home. I like them at home. Arizona plays well too, but I don't think I'm going to take SC at home.
I think Jim's onto something taking the points there. I mean, you have to remember Arizona won by 9 in the first meeting back on February 5th at the McHale Center. They didn't cover then. They were a 10.5-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming off a 16-point loss at Colorado. God, that was a terrible game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They let the Buffalo shoot almost 50% from the floor. Arizona shot a little worse than 40%. And USC, they tend to, hang in games. They've got a lot of talent on that team. I would probably lean towards what Jim said and take the points. I think Arizona wins the game,
Yeah.
But I think they're only going to win by 3, maybe 4.
The other thing you have to consider is SC's got to believe that if they could knock off Arizona, that's going to help them in seeding. Because they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. It may help them in seeding in the, Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah, I think a win will give Arizona the Pac-12 title.
Right. But what I'm saying is I think that if SC can beat them, that will help them in seeding in both tournaments.
That's true. I mean, anytime you can beat a team that's out on one line right now.
Right.
And then Sly wants to know about Dayton and Richmond. That's going to be a very entertaining basketball game for sure. I mean, both teams in the thick of the A10. Just taking a look here, I think the line was only a bucket last I looked. Is that a regular season game? They haven't played the tournament yet, right? No, that's at Robins Center.
Yeah.
Richmond favored by 2 at home. Dayton is 5-5 on the road. Richmond is 11-3
at home.
At home, yeah. Dayton 5-5 on the road. The big thing that Dayton's going to hang their head on is defense. I mean, Dayton's a very good defensive team. The question is,
how many points is Richmond giving up?
2.
That's
the thing that concerns me about Dayton is they lost to LaSalle.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where go back and look at at what Chris said. There's a lot of games to bet. That may not be the one to bet.
I'm just taking a quick look here. First meeting, did they even play yet this season? They might not have, because the A10 is such a big conference.
Yeah, and it's all over the place.
Yeah, they haven't played yet this season, so can't even throw that in there. Dayton's effective offensively. They play at a snail's pace. They're 342nd in tempo, and they rely so heavily on defense. Richmond, Chris Moody's team's got a lot of experience on that team. You've got, 3 seniors, 4 seniors, Gilliard, K.O. Sherrod, and Grant Golden. Then you've got Tyler Burton's a junior. This is going to be one of those ones, just like Toledo and Buffalo, where it's basically a coin flip. Yeah. And coin flips are not a game I want to chase after from a personal perspective. If I had to lead one way or the other, I'd lead Richmond because they're at home and because Dayton's coming off a loss to LaSalle, not to mention Dayton also might be caught looking ahead to Saturday's home game with Davidson, because you look at the A10, Davidson's 14-2, VCU's 13-3, Dayton's 12-4, St. Bonaventure's 11-4. Then you got St. Louis and Richmond are both 10-6. All these teams are trying to get into the top 4 for the treasured double buys in the A10 tournament. Dayton might get caught looking ahead a little bit, thinking that they're good to go. And I think Richmond wants this one a little bit more. I would lean Richmond, but I wouldn't chase it all that hard.
And they're only giving up 2 points.
Yeah, and James, I get where you're going with Toledo. They're getting points, but I'd pass too. Like I said, both teams play, Toledo and Buffalo. They're both very good offensive teams. Buffalo's been on a roll. I wouldn't touch it either, personally. So I think you're making a wise choice. And like you said above that, Youngstown at home, Robert Morris, Florida Gulf Coast, North Alabama, Oakland at home, over IUPUI. They're all playing garbage teams. But the good thing about playing garbage teams is it makes it a lot safer for you from a betting perspective if you know that somebody's playing a garbage team than a matchup like we just talked about with Toledo, Buffalo, or Dayton, Richmond. Those two teams are so evenly matched. On any given night, they can go one way or the other.
And that's why you stay away from them. You don't want to get in toss-up games. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, once we get into the later rounds of March Madness, you're going to inevitably run into those.
Sure.
But you don't have to worry about them right now.
No, you don't. And, no. Right now, take the safe ride home so that you can have money left for the tournaments.
There you go.
So, there's that. Any final thoughts, Mr. King, before we exit stage left here and make room for Scott and Scott coming up at the top of the hour right here?
Are we talking about the Rush album, Exit Stage Left? Because that was a good album.
I'm sorry?
Are we talking about the Rush album, Exit Stage Left?
If you want to, we'll go with the Rush album, or if you want to, we can go with Bugs Bunny, who's always saying Exit Stage Left. Either way, we're fine.
Obviously, like we said, just be smart with what you wager on. I know there's a big game in the Big East tonight. Everybody's talking about Providence, Villanova. The game means nothing to Providence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've already won the Big East title. Everybody's all excited about the fact that Villanova's probably going to put the boots to them. But what does Ed Cooley care? His team's 24-3. 24-4 isn't going to make a major dent in the lineup. But just be smart with what you bet on. I mean, I could have put up Vermont. They're playing Maine tonight. Vermont is favored by roughly 6 billion points, but let's face it, they're favored by 20. They're playing Maine on the road. It's the regular season finale for them. John Becker's team looking for their 25th win. I mean, just be smart. Is basically what I'm leaving it. You don't need to make dumb picks just because you want to chase things. Warren, we're glad you enjoyed the show. We do our best to put stuff out there to help you guys out. I know sometimes they don't pan out like New Jersey and Vancouver yesterday, but I blame Bruce Boudreau for that. And there you go, like James said, be smart with your research, and if you don't feel like you're chasing something, then pass on it and prepare for it. Tomorrow's another day. I mean, it's not like basketball's going to suddenly end all of a sudden.
Right.
And James said he's not here because he heard your phone ringing.
Thanks, James. You want to get it for me? Here, I'll pass it on. It went to I went to voicemail. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt the flow here. Not a problem. It was hopefully not someone calling me to tell me the building's burning down. We're in good shape.
I think you probably would have heard the fire department by now.
Probably. They've been knocking on the door or something to that effect. So, all right. Well, tonight, interesting games in the association, interesting games in college. Some fun stuff on the ice, and we're getting closer, folks, to tournament time. One last thing for those of you on baseball, I said before, 25% chance that the season would begin on time, that they'd meet that deadline. Yesterday, suddenly and amazingly, they decided, Major League Baseball said, did we say yesterday? No, what we meant was 5 o'clock Tuesday, all right? Still nothing, but I do believe they're going to get something done by the end of the week, and the reason for that being is if they finish this week with nothing, that pushes spring training into April, which means baseball can't start until mid to late April, which means there is no way they can play 162 games. They may not even be able to play 152 or 3 games. So that's where they are. I know that the league has said, through sources I've spoken to, that the owners are willing to blow up a month of the season. So there's that. So let's see. But I think it's going to be done this week because neither side can afford it not to be done. If it's not done this week, then we're pushing into some very dangerous territory.
Yeah, and not just from the PR perspective, but from the financial perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody's going to make any money.
Well, the players will make money, but it won't be as much because they won't play as many.
That's what I mean. If they don't get something done and they have to blow it up, then nobody's going to make any money out of it.
Right. The other thing is...
I think Boris is going to try to get his players to do something because he wants to get paid too.
Well, he's a brinksmanship guy. And he's going to say to these guys, hold them to the feet to the fire, and then at the end of the day, you're going to go and get it done. I know that the Washington Nationals, just before the December 2nd deadline, offered an extension to Juan Soto, which was a 10-year, $350 million contract. And because he's represented by Scott, they didn't counter because Scott doesn't counter. Scott forces you to bid against yourself. If you haven't seen this movie, I've seen it way too many times. You'll end up, his first one on that was, was A-Rod, where A-Rod signed the deal, left the Mariners, signed a deal with the Texas Rangers for $260 million, which is, by the way, just happened to be $100 million over what the Mets offered him, and they were number 2 in that bidding.
And I was living in Seattle when A-Rod signed that deal, and the city just about revolted on him. And then shortly after, Ken Griffey Jr. was traded.
Mm-hmm.
And then nobody cared about the Mariners for a while.
Well, there's a lot of people think the Mariners might be the team to beat in the American League this year.
If Jerry DiPoto quit trading people every 5 seconds.
No, there's that. But
Jerry DiPoto's trading guys like he was the left one out-handed guy out of the bullpen.
Or Jim Bowden.
That's true.
Who's another one of the Trader Jim in this case.
Now, Jim, people are asking about all the great stuff that you said is in the show box. Tell them where they can find the show box.
All right, guys. If you go down below, there's a line that says more. Okay? I'm assuming that you understand that more means actually more. Okay? Click on it, and look what happens. Oof, down comes a menu, a plethora of fantastic opportunities. I'm glad you brought that up, because what's there? Well, there's the 2 opportunities to get involved with promotions we have with BetMGM. That's cool. There's all the information about Chris's stuff. Absolutely. There's information on how to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Okay? So when you go down there, just hit more. And all of a sudden, you're going to see it. Okay? So do that.
And like James said, hit that like, freeloaders.
That's right, James. We feel you, brother. We talked about that early, but you can never say it too much. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell. Okay? We're here toiling to make sure that you enjoy your gaming aspects of all types. And so we just want a little love. Give us a little love. And then hit more. Okay? It's below us. Smash more. Drops down. All kinds of cool stuff is there. Okay? Cool enough. All right, gang. It's been fun. Okay?
Enjoy Steen and Rochelle. Don't forget to tip your waiters.
That's right. We're going to be here all week. Don't forget to tip your waiters. So have a lot of fun, gang. Enjoy yourself tonight. Come back tomorrow. And remember, we're still looking for your teams that you think are going to be in the NCAA tournament. Put that in the comments below. Put anything you want with hockey, with Major League Baseball. Any thoughts you may have that you want us to talk to you about, put it in the comments below. We'll come back to you. All right.
And don't forget that we're also going to put together our awards that we think should go out to people instead of the scrub awards that we see get handed out.
Right. We're going to do the real awards, and you guys are going to be part of it. So Chris and I have got our tuxedos. We're ready to go. So from that standpoint, we want you to be involved. So hang on. 3 o'clock. Which is in
just 2 minutes away.
2 minutes away. We'll get out. We got to step aside, or we're going to be smashing on those guys' show. So 2 minutes before Scott and Scott back to the window, having some fun. And guys, we love having you here, guys and gals. We will see you tomorrow, 1:30, right here, same time, same bat channel. All right, take care, everybody. Have a nice day.